Hey, Bestie.
Hey guys, we got two Bestie homeschooling mamas coming at you. I am Gail.
And I'm Christina.
And we have a fun Marriage Month Week 2 episode for you. Mm-hmm. It is our Father's Day episode. It's very exciting. I know, we're not dads. It's okay. We got you. Mm-hmm. Take it off, Christina.
Okay, today we are going to have this very special episode in honor of Father's Day. Fathers play such a unique and vital role in our homes. We are going to come at this knowing that we are talking to the wives. Mm-hmm. We want to enhance your relationship with your husbands, heal old wounds, and help your kids to honor their father.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
It's awesome. I'm so excited. Okay, let's get started. Let's talk about the role of the husband. So we've talked about this before. God's design for the husband in Ephesians 5:23 through 25. For the husband is head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. That is how God designed us to be.
Right. We talked about this last week.
We did.
And I think we read 22 and 23 last week. Mm-hmm. So this is just an extension of that, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe we could add on to it a little bit more next week.
Maybe. Keep going, huh?
Yeah.
I love it. Yes. So the husband is to be the head of our house. And sometimes I know that is hard for us wives because we are home more of the day than the dads typically are, right? If you are a stay-at-home mom, we're home all day. We know how things function and
we're the manager.
We're the manager, right? So sometimes when dad comes home, it is hard to let him be the head of the house, but we want to remember how important it is that he is the head of the house.
I think for a lot of us too, that needs to be remembering that he is the spiritual leader.
Yes.
More so than anything else.
Yeah.
He's not the boss of anybody in the house. He is the leader of the house. And so when we make a decision, it's between the two of us. But the leadership, I think the Bible's talking about there is really more spiritual leadership as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. So there are various roles that the dad can play in the house. Mm-hmm. If you're a homeschooling family, he can help with some of the lessons, or he can just be a support. He can be that ear to listen when we are freaking out that we are failing. Mm-hmm. He can be that motivator, always encouraging us. And of course, the provider.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, even though you might be doing the bulk of the homeschooling as the mom, making sure that you guys are on the same page with curriculum.
Absolutely.
Or the schedule of homeschooling, whether you're going to do it year round, or if he thinks it's important to just do it like a typical school year, I think obviously that needs to be a discussion. He gets to have a part in that too, because that affects his schedule also.
Absolutely.
So he may not be doing the bulk of the educating, but he also needs to be that helper planner for those kinds of things.
Yeah. Because like you said, you need to be on the same page about many topics, not just homeschooling.
Yeah. All the things.
Yeah. All the things, but having those conversations and hashing it all out, if you will, just to make sure that you guys are solid in your
plan.
Yeah, absolutely. There can be challenges, sometimes with this, trying to get on that same page or balance it's hard for husbands. It's hard to be gone all day at work. Even if they work from home, it's hard. I have a work from home husband, and it's still hard because he has to be on all day long, and then he gets done and he wants to relax, but he wants to hear about what we've done all day, and then he feels bad for missing the things that we've done all day. So there's definitely a balancing act. If your husband has a super stressful job, I know you can relate to that. There is a time of decompression that needs to happen. David, when he worked out of the house, he commuted almost an hour to work, and the traffic was horrible. And by the time he got home, he was like,
frustrated.
I'm frustrated and I'm annoyed and I need to just decompress. So, all those things factor into
all the things that they do every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in those moments, that's the perfect time to show them our appreciation for what they do.
Yeah.
Because it's, if we come home, it's so easy to do. They get home and we want to just word vomit all the frustrating things that have happened all day.
Yeah.
And that's probably the least thing that they want in that moment. Doesn't mean we don't word vomit on them. Right. It doesn't mean that we don't tell them all the things.
Right.
It just means...
not in the first 10 minutes, guys.
Maybe not in the first 10 minutes, right? Let them have the, oh, yay, daddy's home. Get the love. Let everyone be excited that he's home, and then have a time later where you can, okay, you tell me about your day. I'll tell you about my day. Yep. David and I like to go on walks, and we just, but again, it's not right after he gets off work. It's he's had some time to decompress, and then we can go and we can both word vomit about all the crazy stuff. It definitely helps.
It does.
When we are appreciating our spouses, it is so important to know their love language. And I know we've talked about this several times because we both love this book, The Love Languages. There are the 5 love languages. And that's just how, if you don't know, that's how you receive love. That's how you feel loved. And it's also how you show love. So if your husband is an acts of service like my husband, then he shows me, just naturally shows me he loves me because he will do something that is an act of service, right? And in return, I know after reading this book and doing all the things for the past many years that that's how he feels love, right? I am the opposite. I am naturally a words of affirmation. So I don't naturally just think to do something for him. I have to work at it. I have to recognize this is how he feels loved. So I'm going to do this for him. Just like he does the same thing. He doesn't naturally think to compliment me. It's just not how he is wired.
Unfortunately, being a mom and being a dad is a thankless position.
Oh, sure.
And so being that cheerleader for each other is probably one of the easiest things you can do for your spouse. Yeah. Because no one at work is going to say, man, you're awesome dad today. You've rocked that dad thing. Not many people are going to do that.
That's
right.
True.
And
That's
so, and as stay-at-home moms, it's very thankless. Only because your kids, you're with them all the time and they're like, this is just what mom does. Yeah. Right. And not that we necessarily have to have that, but for those of us who are words of affirmation girls, it's hard sometimes to have a thankless job. Right. And so if you guys aren't familiar with the Love Language book written by Gary Chapman, and there are the 5 love languages: acts of service, quality time, words of affirmation, physical touch, and receiving gifts. And if you don't know what your husband's love languages, either read the book or take the test online. There's a quiz that you can take real quick.
It should
you should know based on what those 5 things are.
It does kind of stand out because again, they're showing love the way that they want to receive love. So sometimes I think there are times when they get so wrapped up in their own head that they struggle to show us that, like what we need for our tanks. Okay. And so they're not necessarily filling our tanks, therefore we're not filling their tanks. And if you're not intentional... Oh yeah, that is definitely a cycle.
Right. And so if you're not intentional about making sure that you're filling their tank their way, then they're not going to do the same intentional process for you either.
She is very wise, friends.
So, while it might be obvious, maybe, and maybe they do show it to you that way, you need to show it to them that way. If you guys are in a place in your marriage where you're not actually showing love to each other, this is a great place to start because you can take the quiz and you can start it without them knowing and be like, okay, this is the things that he usually responds to. And this is how I'm going to try and show him more love. Yeah.
It's a good place to kind of reflect on too. Like if you're in that space where you're like, I'm kind of grumbly. He's doing this, he's doing that, he's frustrating me. Okay, well, let's kind of take a step back and look and say, have I been filling his love tank? Have I been pouring into him? Have I been showing him that I love and respect him?
Right. Well, and we talked about this last week. If you are struggling in your marriage, like there's something that the two of you aren't connecting on, right? And so this is a good place to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
because you can't pour from an empty cup, guys. We've talked about that.
Mm-hmm. I think that's your favorite saying.
It is my favorite saying because it's so true.
Yep.
It's so true.
It is. So it is important. It is important to celebrate our husbands and all of the things, big, small. Mm-hmm. It's important. It's important to them. They need to know that they are loved. They need to know that they're respected.
And actually go up to them and say, thank you for being such an amazing provider.
Yes.
Though that sentence right there probably means more to them than anything.
Yeah.
And, or sending them a message or a text message that says, you're just a freaking amazing dad and husband. And I thank you for all the blessings you've brought into our life.
Yeah.
Something to the point where they know that
yeah,
how blessed you are to be married to them.
Yeah. That
you teach your kids the same things to say the same things to their dad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
and don't be shy around the kids.
No.
Say it to them in front of the kids too. Let the kids hear you say that because that shows your kids what they need to look for in their spouse. Mm-hmm. And two, I don't know, there's just something about hearing that your parents love each other.
Yeah, you don't have to be affectionate to each other only behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. I think that's actually really, really bad for your family. Mm-hmm. I think you need to be affectionate in front of your kids.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying grope each other. I'm just saying be affectionate.
Yeah.
To each other in front of your children because they're going to look for what they see. Mm-hmm. And so if you're not modeling
absolutely
that relationship with your husband, then they're going to struggle as well.
Absolutely.
And they're not going to know that it's okay to be openly in love with your spouse.
Yeah. What a sad kind of a
I had lots of friends who said, oh, I never saw my parents hold hands, or I never saw my parents kiss, or when I was growing up. And I was like, that's terrible. I mean, terrible. At least your parents live together because mine don't.
Well,
but I think it means so much more when you see your parents living together and knowing that they're happy.
There's a security in that for them because especially in the world we live in now where parents get divorced all the time. Kids get scared that because they hear their friends, their parents aren't together and, oh, I hope that's never me. Mm-hmm. So there's a security in that for them.
So that is the role of your husband as your husband and as your kid's father, right? But knowing that this is a Father's Day episode and that we're talking to the mamas and all the wives out there, I think we need to address feelings of having father hurt. Mm-hmm. A lot of us have it.
Yep.
For some
You're
reason,
not alone.
Our generation had a lot of divorces and a lot of dads that weren't present and things of that nature. I'm hoping that turns around. Mm-hmm. But I feel like a lot of people my age did not have their parents together for long periods of time. And so I think in your marriage and showing your kids how to honor their dad, healing from your father hurt is so important.
Mm-hmm. It's hard.
It's so hard.
We know. We've been there.
Yeah. I'm still working on it.
Me too.
I've started seeing a counselor for lots of things in my life. I just need a tune-up, some just helping process through some traumas that I've never processed through and to make me a better mom. And that's what I need right now, right? And so we're working through some traumas with my family, and fatherhood's definitely one of them. Mm-hmm. Obviously, my dad's in heaven, and I know that he's there. He told me that he loved God before he left, which is great. I hope that he realizes the things he did here on this earth were not of God, and that he has repented for those with Jesus up there, because he can't do it here, right? And I've had to forgive a lot of the things that he wasn't there for, or that he missed, or that I wished he was there for often, or that he said he'd be and then wasn't. That was a big one for us. So, fatherhood is a for real thing. Mm-hmm. And if you are suffering from it and you don't know that, it can interfere with your marriage.
It can. Or if you know that and you're just choosing not to deal with it, it can interfere with your marriage.
Yeah, it brings on these unreal and sometimes unneeded expectations that you're putting on your husband from the trauma of your daddy issues. Right. And so that's not fair to your husband.
It's not at all. It's not at all. If we expect that our husbands are going to do the same things that our dads did,
or they're going to do the things that our dad didn't do.
Yeah.
And then they don't know that that's an expectation we have, then that creates marriage issues, marriage hurt as well, because you're not expressing an expectation to them and you're just expecting it to happen or them to read your mind. And that's going to cause resentment. It's going to cause hurt. It's going to cause strife in between. You're like, well, why aren't you reading my mind? Why don't you understand that I need you to do this because it didn't happen for me?
Yeah.
You know? And so I think you have to be very, very careful with father hurt. And I implore you to pray about if you have some that needs to be worked through to improve your marriage and to show your kids how to honor their dad well. Because if we didn't know how to honor our dad, right, then how do we teach our kids how to do that? So a couple of book recommendations that we have for some working through father hurt is Daddy's Girl by Lana Anderson, or I Hate You and I Want You Out of My Life by Sherry Orr. We've talked to that author here on this podcast, so I hope you go back and read that. Or even Love and Respect by Emerson Eggerichs. And we talked about this last week, but I didn't give the author's name. But this one is more of a marriage situation, but you can heal father hurt from it because you can change the cycle that you and your husband are in.
Break those chains.
Yeah.
Yep.
Break that generational cursing, because if you come from a household that was not together and your parents were divorced, you have generational cursing in your life that you have got to work through in order for it to not continue. You have to do it. Change it to a generational blessing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We want that for our kids, right? We want better for our kids than what we had. And so this is the place to start.
Right.
If you're struggling with that hurt from your earthly father, then
you need to start putting your heart into your heavenly Father.
Yeah. He
will never, ever, ever let you down. Ever. So if you are struggling to see what a father is supposed to look like or how you're supposed to feel loved by a father, I would suggest you start in the Bible.
Yep. Absolutely. And then give your husband that encouragement and that big I love you and I appreciate. I'm just going to keep coming back to this today because it is so important. Yeah. You know, if you know, we have these expectations in our head, but your husband is here and he is doing his best and he is loving you well and he is loving your children. Make sure he knows that, because he's already doing better than some of us grew up with, right? Yeah.
Well, and two, I think with that being said, share your expectations.
Yeah. Take
them outside of your head and put them in your mouth, right? Or take them from inside of your head and put them in your mouth so that he knows where you're coming from. Or if you are dealing with father hurt, tell him that.
Right. Can I elaborate on this? It's not in the notes, but okay. So we have these dialogues in our head, right? And we don't voice them. And then sometimes
we get mad at them.
For not reading our minds, which they can't do.
For not knowing the dialogue.
Right. But another thing that sometimes us ladies tend to do, and I don't think it's something that we intend to do, but it can cause so much hurt and damage in our marriage, is when we do end up voicing those expectations, but we're not voicing them kindly, respectfully, or even to them. Right. Where we're in a group setting. And those things, because we're hurt or saddened by them, they come out in the group settings in front of our friends, in front of his friends. Right. And that causes even more damage than if we were to just sit down and have that conversation and say, you know what? You don't know this, but this is something that I need from you.
Right. Or this is an expectation I have in my head because of what I thought I needed as a girl, as a kid. And I need you to do that for our kids, or some form of that. Yeah. But you have to share it.
You have to share it, and you have to share it respectfully.
And don't share it halfway through your thought. I do that a lot.
What do you mean by halfway through your thought?
So I'll start the conversation in my head with myself, and then I'll start talking to him about it, and he has no idea where I'm coming from. He's like, wait a second. Rewind. Tell me where you started.
Okay, you just brought me back to my high school years. I was on the speech team, and we had shirts that said, "Are the voices in my head bothering you?"
I do it all the time.
That's hilarious.
He'll say, because I can be very random sometimes, which is why I like that we like type things out for ourselves here on our notes, because I could just, throw something weird.
See, our notes are very different. And this is where that comes from. Hers are very detailed and organized and word for word, and mine are like bullet point. Yeah.
Well, for me, it's because I have to get the whole thought out.
Yeah.
And I don't want to start my conversation with you all in the middle of it, because I do it with my husband all the time.
I have the opposite problem. I say things that I think I'm not saying out loud.
Landon will actually say to me, "Made from a loom." Okay, so backstory is that my grandma also was very random. I'm sure she had something very similar happening in her head, where she had the conversation first in her head and then only parts of it came out of her mouth. And so like this one time we're sitting at my grandma's table and she picks up the coaster that she made. She goes, "Do you know that this was made on a loom?" And Landon's like, "Okay." We weren't talking about yarn or looms or coasters even. She just picks it up and blurts that out, right? So for him, that randomness is where I'm coming from. And so when I say something and he has no idea what I'm saying, he goes, "Made from a loom." And I'm like, okay, let me back it up. Let me give you the beginning of the conversation that was in my head.
That is so funny.
So that's the point, though. We tend to internalize our dialogue, and then they have no idea that we're ticked off, and then we resent them.
It's true. It's silly, but it's true.
It's really just all about communication. We've talked about this 1,000 times.
It is.
It's just all about communication.
Right. Because we think differently than they do, and we just have to get all caught up on the same page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So enough about fatherhood and all the crazy things there, because we know that is a hard subject. And if Father's Day is hard for you, I'm so sorry. It's definitely a day that I struggle with as well. Yep. And you're not alone, and it's okay to have a hard day today. Kind of like the same thing with Mother's Day. I think the hurt with Father's Day, though, is it's very different than Mother's Day. Mm-hmm. For Mother's Day, I think it's like, oh, I miss my mom because she's gone to heaven already or whatever. Mm-hmm. But for Father's Day, unfortunately, for many of us ladies, it's that we don't get to spend it with them. If they are in heaven, you had a great father, or they just weren't ever there and you never spent a Father's Day with them, kind of thing. And that's very painful to get through, even as a grown-up. So
it is.
Work through that, ladies.
Yes.
For your marriage.
Let's talk about a few things that are just a little bit more fun for this Father's Day. Shall we end on a fun note? Pivot. Okay. I wonder how many times we've said that in our episodes. I know, it should be a
drinking game, maybe. I'm just kidding.
maybe not. Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Let's talk about practical tips for involving dads in just our everyday life or our homeschooling life, because I know a lot of us are homeschooling out there. What are some ways that we can include them? Because again, if they're working and they're gone all day, or they're in the room all day working, it's hard. It is hard for them to feel included. So I wrote down a few ideas. Have your kids show them when they get off or when they get home something that they did that day, whether it's a schoolwork they finished, a picture that they drew, something fun that they can just show off and say, look what we did today, Daddy. Another idea is to put the schedule up in the house somewhere, on the calendar, on the whiteboard, somewhere where he can see it, so that sometimes that's hard because it's like, oh, look what I missed today. But I think a lot of the times it's like, oh, look what they get to do today because I'm working so hard. So that's, I think, super important. I know that helps us in our house a lot. Yeah,
and like our son really he likes touch from my husband. He likes to play the hard play. So he'll be like, okay, after we eat dinner, like he likes to plan ahead and talk with him. And he's like, I just need you to play this with me at this time before I go to bed.
Aww.
And so it's very important for him to have that connection time, at the end of the day. And I think even though Landon's tired and he's like, I don't want to do this right now, I think at the end he usually is like,
glad he did.
Yeah. All the time.
Yeah.
Because, it's connection time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's super fun. You want to make sure your kids connect with their dad.
Absolutely. Another thing I would suggest is sitting down and having dinner or a meal together every single day as a family, like as many days as you can. I know sometimes things get in the way, things come up, whatever. But as often as you can, make it a priority to sit together around the table having dinner or a meal together as a family. Because that just gives you the time to connect, to talk, to de-screen, and just share that time together. And when you share a meal with anybody, you grow closer together, right? So if you take all of those meals every week, every month, every year, it's really important family time that helps everyone connect.
Right.
Yeah.
I like it. Some creative ideas that you can do for making Father's Day truly special. We talked about this with Mother's Day, so we thought we should do it with Father's Day too. Like, what are some things that you can do to make it super special for them? I'm not great at this. I'm going to admit, as a mom, like, I'm not great at this for my husband, my poor husband. He is wonderful when it comes to Mother's Day or my birthday or something, and I struggle with this. I don't know why, but I do. So we're going to do it better this year.
You got this.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be gone. Part of, we're going to be on vacation around Father's Day area. So part of it'll be there, but yeah, so cook his favorite meal maybe on Father's Day. A lot of them like to barbecue. So, I mean, if they want to do that on Father's Day themselves, that's okay. You do everything else. But if you want to barbecue for them, learn how to do that. That might be really sexy for him, for you to learn how to barbecue.
You never know.
Yeah. Family games. Let him take a nap. Go camping if he loves the outdoors.
David
loves.
See, Landon does. David does not. But if I tell him he can take a nap, he would be like, I'm all in.
Yeah, I'm done.
This is awesome. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for Father's Day, along with any other special day, is just to show them how loved and respected that they are.
And it's going to be different for everyone. All of the dads, we're all different, right? So you know them well. Find something that you know that they will love and feel respected. Just show them, pour into them, serve them. And that's going to make your Father's Day great.
It will. Absolutely.
Yeah. I thought it would be fun to end with a fun a story about our kids with their dads. So do you have maybe a fun story that you could share with us?
I do. The one that comes to mind is when so my husband is a huge Denver Bronco fan for the NFL. And I used to be a Colts fan because I love Peyton Manning. Love Peyton Manning. And when Peyton came to the Broncos, it was a marriage made in heaven in our house. So when Peyton came to the Broncos for the first year, we didn't have a ton of money back then. We were in the middle of maybe we had just had the bankruptcy. I don't remember, but it was in that area where we were not, we were struggling. And so to get him a Bronco jersey was a big deal, right? And so we got him a Bronco jersey for Father's Day. And it was from me, Mackenzie, and my mom. And Mackenzie, we have a video of him opening it, right? And she was so excited for him to open this Bronco jersey. And she's videotaping on the phone. And at the end of it or whatever, he's like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. And she goes, we got it for your enjoyment. And it is my favorite memory you could hear how excited she was because of how excited he was, right? And so that is probably one of my favorite Father's Day situations. But and maybe it was his Father's Day / birthday gift because it's around the same time most years. But yeah, still, it was the best.
How old was she?
Oh gosh, I think she was between 8 and 9-ish, maybe. Yeah, I would say probably 2011-ish, 2012, I think, maybe. So yeah, she was probably 7, 8, or 9. But she was just cute.
I love it.
Yeah. It was a fun day that I remember. And we still watch the video every now and again just to hear her little tiny baby voice because she's not a little tiny baby voice anymore.
All grown up?
All grown up.
Oh. Well, mine isn't as cute as that. You threw in the cute things that kids say, and that's always the winner. My favorite was when David was working out of the house and the kids were young. We, one Father's Day, made him Like I took butcher paper and we made him a big giant sign that said I don't remember what it said, Happy Father's Day, we love you. And they colored all over it and put their handprints all over it. And we put that sign on the garage, the garage door to the house. So every day when he pulled in from work, that was the first thing that he saw in the garage. And then he'd come through and that was up for years and years and years. Just that little touch of something where he could have that reminder as soon as he got home how much he was missed.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
So cute.
So cute.
Love those daddies.
We do. Yeah. We do. All right. Well, that kind of wraps up our Father's Day episode. We hope that you enjoyed celebrating and recognizing the incredible contributions of the dads in our homes. We would love to hear your thoughts and your stories about the special dads in your life. Feel free to reach out to us on our website or through our social media channels and share those stories with us.
I would love to hear everything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you liked today's episode, if you found value in it, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment all of the things that you loved about the show. And don't forget, Christina and I are speaking at special events now, so make sure to fill out that form if you want us to be at your event. All right. Ready to pray?
I am.
All right, let's do it.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the dads in our lives. Thank you for being our Father, for loving us unconditionally, and just for being there for us even when the dads in our lives aren't always. Thank you for blessing us with kids and giving us the ability and the chance to raise them, to love you, and to love their dads. Pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Hey, bestie.